Welcome, Kennedy. We're great. It's great to have you back with your alma mater. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Seth Birch for putting this together. Seth, this whole thing is his brainchild, and he's done a great job on it. We really appreciate it, as well as Dr. Mike Boyle, the department chair, who works very hard on these events as well as Jen Bacon, our dean. We've got a whole bunch of people involved in these things, and everyone is supportive. And as you know, it takes the whole team to make it work.
Absolutely.
Let me give you, I'm going to let you I'm going to do a short intro, and then we're going to just go over things in terms of I was going to say long career, but I don't know how long it is. But anyway, your meteoric rise. Anyway, Kennedy Jirard is a graduate of our program, as many of you are listening, are members of our program, so it should be inspirational to you to see a person who came through, sat in the same seats you did pre-COVID, had some of the same concerns and fears and doubts, I would say, but showed the kind of tenacity and perseverance and proactive approach that we always encourage all of our students to take. And it's led to her being here today as one of our success stories. So let's do it this way. I've got a lot of questions from students. Some of them will come across chat, but some of them Seth has provided for me because we have a lot of people who are interested in your career. Let me start by just talking about your earliest days at Westchester. Did you come in as a comm major?
Yes, I did. So I actually transferred from IUP my sophomore year of college. Over there, I was a psych major. And then I realized I wanted to do communications after being there for a year. And I also realized I wanted to be at Westchester University. So I switched over and entered the comm major.
That must have been a pretty tumultuous decision, both universities and majors.
Right. Yes. I initially in high school, I didn't do that well. I like to talk more than I like to study. And so I got into IUP only. And so then that summer I was like, I would really like to be at Westchester University. Like IUP was great for what it is, but I was looking for more diversity and I wanted to do more extracurriculars that IUP didn't have at the time. And so then I applied to Westchester and got in and decided to do communications.
Great. And Westchester, as you've probably heard, is getting harder and harder to get into these days.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm really glad I was able to get in. I know my grades
I still think you would have, but we get a lot of applications. We get an enormous number of applications. We're still growing, but we're being outpaced by the number of applications, which is a good sign. You want your alma mater to be a place that's on the rise. 100%. Okay, so let's talk about your time at Westchester for a few minutes here.
Okay.
You get here, you set up, you arrive, you're a transfer student. We have plenty of transfer students. I was a transfer student into Westchester back in the day. I remember it being kind of scary because everybody else seemed to know each other and I was coming in cold, and that was kind of difficult.
Yeah, it was definitely a transition. And I joined a bunch of things right off the bat just because I was like, I want to make friends. So I tried to do a sorority. I didn't get picked for any of them. I wanted to do a multicultural sorority, but then the application process or the way you get into it was a little too long and commitment for me. I joined BSU. I right away did the course to be on the radio, and I started a radio show where I met two friends of mine. I applied to be a copy editor at the newspaper, and these were all things I just found online. I was like, okay, like we have a newspaper, and I reached out and was like, how can I be part of this? Because I was like, this is how I'm going to make friends. I tried to join the debate group, but it was that was also a big commitment too, but I went to several of the meetings and met a few people through there. And then I ended up working at the student union, which is essentially where I kind of found my spot at school, besides the newspaper and sorry, my thing just turned on. Besides the newspaper and the radio, which is also where I found like kind of my area, but also the student union where I worked as an event coordinator. Like I did the RAM after hours. I did those events every Friday. And then I ended up working as a desk person and then a student director. So I just would say get really involved. Like I tried to join everything just because I was like, oh, I need friends. How am I going to make friends? The sorority and Greek life didn't pan out, which is also a big thing on our campus, but that didn't work out for me. So now I was like, okay, let's get really invested in my major. Let me do the newspaper. Let me do the radio. And there are really easy ways to get involved if you feel like you don't know how to do it. Like I never worked on the radio before that. And then I had my own show, and then I had a show with two friends, and then I got to go to all the radio parties and things like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm always encouraged when I hear a successful person talk about the fact that everything didn't work out for them. And
Yeah.
you did try stuff, and some of it worked, and some of it you didn't get accepted for, but you just kept trying. And that's a good lesson for our students in general, that it isn't all going to work out, and it's not going to be smooth. And now in the retelling, I'm sure you just sort of casually say, well, I didn't get into the sororities, but I'm sure it was a pretty crushing blow at the time.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. But you can find like-minded people when you join organizations, particularly media organizations. I mean, they're people who are already into the things that you're into.
Exactly.
So you're getting around. You must have been doing multiple meetings. You're probably living half your life in Sykes.
Yes. My whole life was at Sykes.
All of your life was in Sykes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What was you got to do a shout out to your radio crew. Who were your radio mates, and what was your show?
It was Carly and Tiffany, and I still keep in touch with them. Can't think of their last names right now at the top of my head, but I think it was like KTK or something, because it was, or like K squared and T. It was just fun. Like, we would play all the hits, and then we would talk about random things.
Okay, that was your format. Your format was top 40 type thing, or popular
Yeah,
music?
like music we were really into, but top 40, like R&B, hip hop, and then we would talk about, in the news type things, but in like entertainment news, not
Gotcha.
newsy stuff.
Gotcha. And how long did you do that?
We did it for a year, I think. Yeah, that was a lot of fun because you kind of have control over a full hour of the radio. That was one of the coolest things about Westchester, getting to host my own radio show. And then the great thing about all these things that I had a lot of fun doing and like made friends with, I was able to really pad my resume. Like, I did the radio. I helped out on the television station for a little bit, WCUR. I worked at the student union. I felt like I wasn't involved a lot, but I really was. Like, looking back, I was like, okay, like I did a lot of different things, and it was impressive from, I think, a employer's standpoint.
Yeah, those are major resume builders. So the
Yeah,
steps we can think of is getting to a university that's right for you, but also jumping in pretty quickly and going beyond the classroom, particularly for comm majors, going beyond the classroom and getting involved in stuff that makes your resume look like you're the go-getter that you are.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. And for the quad, what was your position there, and what kind of stories did you cover?
I was the copy editor, so I just edited everyone's things. And the thing about it is I had never copy edited before, but I was like, I really want to be on the quad, but I'm not sure if I wasn't that confident as a writer. And so then I applied for the copy editing position, and it's like grammar. And then I also bought a copy editing book that I studied before, because you have to take a test to do it. And then I got to do it. And you get paid to do that. So it was like every Sunday morning I would go there and be with people who, like, I made one of my great friends there because he covered sports at Westchester University. And every Sunday morning, like, we would all be in there for 3 or 4 hours together. And it just was a great bonding experience. And then you get food, and then you see them around. So if you're looking for friends, and you're also looking to kind of boost your resume and your career, I think these things are great to do. Because at the time I was like, I'm just making friends, but I was also getting skills.
And get paid.
Exactly. I know, that was the bonus. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah, unlike, not that there's anything wrong with the other organizations on campus, but our media organizations have to put out a product on a regular basis. And there's a lot of sort of in the foxhole deadline pressure with that, or on the air deadline pressure with that. And that brings people together. It makes people close.
Exactly. Yeah, I loved my Sunday mornings with the newspaper.
It sounds like a show in itself, Sunday morning newspaper. So good for making friends, good for professional development, good for marketability, developing the resume.
Exactly.
Yeah, all those pieces make sense, and they're going above and beyond. And comm majors, as we said, comm majors have to go above and beyond to do the things that they're doing to get where they're going to go. And then we see that anything else you want to tell us about your time at Westchester?
No. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. I also did off-campus jobs a lot, just because, you need to make money. And so, like, I think those are also valuable for your resume, because it shows like that you're reliable, people can trust you, you show up, things like that. So I feel like sometimes students get worried that they don't have enough experience. Those experience when I was hiring for the internship program at the Tonight Show, I looked for people that were waitresses or waiters because I was like, I've done that before and I know, how responsible and on top of it and, drop of the hat you kind of have to be. So those are also valuable, I think.
And some students do find them sort of embarrassing or below grade kind of things. And it turns
Yeah.
out that employers like yourself say, hey, it takes a certain skill set to do that. Plus, you got a whole lot of time management things going on as far as doing your work, plus doing your schoolwork, plus everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then the shift begins, and then you start to go more toward the professional world.
Internships. Is that what we're going to talk about?
I was hoping to go there, but I want to segue as in I want students to understand that your on-campus work, these are all steps in the process, and your on-campus work helped you to get the internship.
Yes, they did. They did because before I had internships, I didn't have anything else really on my resume. And so being able to say, hey, I do this other stuff and apply for my first internship was very valuable. Like they needed to see that I had some type of experience of showing up and, doing communications work and being reliable and trustworthy.
And tell us about the skill set that you think was important in that transition, the skill set that you learned from your classes and the skill set that you learned in your extracurricular activity, what that skill set was, and then how it applied to your internship.
So in classes and in my extracurriculars, well, I think showing up, classes, attendance is really important. I mean, not a lot. Sometimes people don't come to class and I don't know, it depends on someone's, like the teacher's flexibility with the attendance policy. But my mom is in academia and she told me always go to class, like professors notice who goes to class, sit in the front, ask good questions. And so those were skills that I got from my classes, is just showing up, being reliable, being like a face that is engaged in there. And then from extracurriculars, those things you choose to be a part of. So you can choose to attend, you can choose not to attend. And so also just like being a person of my word who's like, okay, like I told the newspaper I'm going to do this and there's no consequences if I don't, but because I told people like I'm going to see it through. So I think those are two really big things. Like I just became the type of person that was really reliable and dependable and put my effort in even when like it's not like I had a paycheck coming.
Good quality. Good quality.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, dependability is something that people look out for. And yes, professors do notice when people show up and participate in all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're thinking about internships.
Right.
And there's a wide variety to choose from. You're still not, you're a multimedia person, so you're still not totally wrapped into your career yet. Tell us about you selecting them selecting you, how that all went.
I went online because my mom used to not let me really come home for the summer. She'd be like, you have to go somewhere, you have to go do something. Like, I don't want you just coming home and hanging out. So the semester after my sophomore year, I was like, okay, what am I going to do this summer? And I was looking online for internships and I like just looking online, like typing in local internships near me. And I think Westchester University also has a full page of internships that I went through and I applied to so many of them. And one that really stuck out to me was the Philadelphia mayor's office internship, just because at the time I liked communications, but I also thought I was into politics. I think, and I am into politics, but maybe not for a career. I think I was watching a lot of Scandal at the time. But anyway, so I was like, okay, let me do politics. And so then I applied for that internship and I went in for an interview to Philadelphia, the mayor's office. And then I ended up getting it. And it was a lot of fun. They really invest in their internship program. So not only are you kind of working for them, but you're also getting to like tour different Philadelphia landmarks and they're taking you to panels and you get to hear from Mayor Kenny himself. And it just was a lot of fun. And I got to live in Philadelphia. I subletted an apartment from Craigslist and had like a part-time bar job during the whole time. So it was just like a great summer where I got my first internship. Yeah.
So you were Curry Washington for a couple of months.
Exactly. I was like, I really wanted to be here. I was like, okay, I'm going to go work in the White House and date the president.
So this is a lot of logistics in terms of getting into Philly and setting up an apartment and getting around in there. I'm sure you explored Philadelphia while you were there, took advantage of that.
Exactly. I mean, I think people look at it as a lot of logistics, and it is, don't get me wrong, but I think risk taking is a big thing. Like I really appreciate the fact that my mom was like, you can't come home for the summer. Like I could have if nothing panned out, but she was like, you should try not to, like, go do something. You're a young 20 something person, like go have fun, live somewhere else. And the summer before, I actually lived in New Orleans and nannied. So I had experience going somewhere new to me and finding, it's really easy to find sublets online. And I know it seems like scary at first, but it's really like, you just go check them out with your parents and make sure they're safe. But it pays to take risks, because I got to be in Philadelphia and kind of realized that maybe politics wasn't for me, but I made a lot of friends. And that was an internship experience I had under my belt. And when I eventually did Fallon, I needed two. And so this was one of the gold ones that, landed me there.
Great. So I'm hearing taking risks is a necessity.
Yes, 100%. And don't be scared by them, because I eventually took the ultimate risk of moving to New York City without knowing anyone. And so I think all these little steps just kind of set me up to be there.
That's great. So one thing leads to another thing leads to another thing. Did you work in City Hall?
Yeah, I did. It was like John F.
something.
Kennedy Boulevard or something. I was like, wow, it's a sign.
Yeah, that's Kennedy Boulevard. That's right. It is right on Kennedy Boulevard. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but
you didn't steal one of those green and white signs, did you?
No.
Okay. All right. They should have just given you one.
Right.
And what were you doing in there? What was your some of the students have questions about your day to day. They want to know specifically about, I know you're going to say every day was different.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't, or my day to day at work, or my day to day at City Hall.
We're working toward work. We'll get to the work part, but just talk about your experience with the internship.
Okay. In Philadelphia, I was their press communications intern. So I went through their mail and I pulled a lot of headlines. And that was all I did for like 4 hours every day. And then I would go home. It was like from 10 a.m. to 1, and then I was done. And then the day was mine. It was really a great gig. And then I got to be in the office, and Mayor Kenny came in quite a bit, and I got to like see his take on things. And I had to sign an NDA?
Yeah, NDA.
But
right.
It was really interesting being there. Yeah, and meeting all the different people. And my internship class was full of students like my age and from all over Pennsylvania. And we got to hang out a lot because, like I said, they had us tour like landmarks, and they took us to like some, what's that called? Like where you meet other professionals. Like we went to one of those things quite a bit. And so it was a lot of fun.
Great. I don't know if you can see the chat, but you're getting a attaboy from Dr. Boyle, who says it's great that you did a great job, and it's great hearing how you're doing. So he's staying in touch as well.
Yeah, I remember him. When you said his name, I was like, I know Dr. Boyle.
So was the internship junior year, senior year?
Sophomore
Year.
Yeah.
That's a really early start.
Yeah. Well, just because my mom was like, don't come home. And then my junior year of college, I studied abroad with CAA. I went to France because I was studying French, because you have to take a language, I think, at Westchester. And I was studying French. My mom was like, you could go abroad if you want. And she wouldn't let me go to London because she didn't want me to speak English. And so I was like, okay, I'll go to France. And then CAA reached out and was like, hey, we have this internship opportunity if you want to do it. And this is another part where the risk comes in, because they don't tell you the internship till you get there. Like they're like, we'll look at your likes and dislikes and what you're interested in, and then we'll place you in an internship. So not only am I going to France by myself, living with the host family, but now I'm going to do this random internship I know nothing about. Like I was super anxious and like, oh my God, I can't, like too much uncertainty, but my mom was like, just push through. And I was like, I really want to do this. And it would be great to really, be studying media in school in France, and also like pairing it with the media internship, even if I don't know what it will be. And then it was great. I interned with Lost in Frenchulation while I was there, which is a French startup company. They take French films, new French films, and they, sorry, hold on. They take new French films and they have English subtitles so that the expat community in France will have an opportunity to watch the movies, just because in France, they're really close to the cuff kind of with their culture, and they don't typically have English subtitles for the new movies in the cinemas. And so it was run by this one woman named Manon, and I helped her like gather press materials, and I helped research the films, and I helped, coordinate with vendors. And I was like her only intern, and it was a lot of fun. And that was a job where every day was different, and I just had to be kind of a go-getter. But it was a really rewarding experience, and that was internship number 2, which then I was able to qualify for the Jimmy Fallon internship.
That sounds like a total blast. Now, I've just got to figure that there are some students listening to this right now going, there's no way I could just jump on a plane and go to France and not know what was going on.
Well, I was planning to study abroad. Like a lot of students do study abroad. The next riskier thing was just agreeing to do an internship blind.
That is risky.
But even if you're like not studying abroad in France, there are so many internship opportunities just around the town of Westchester University. And sometimes you could even, I think, make them yourself if there's like someone you really admire and you're like, okay, cool. Like, is there a way I could shadow you and like help work out? And I know someone who worked at the radio station within Westchester University, like that, or not in Westchester University, but in the town of Westchester.
WCHE.
And that was, yeah.
WCHE, yeah.
Yeah, it was my friend Bree. She did that, and that counted as an internship. And so it's just, you kind of have to look around, and if it's not completely perfect or laid out like this is exactly what this internship will be, don't let that scare you away. Any experience is good experience, I think. And then, all internships is teaching you what you do and don't like. Like I learned I don't like politics and I don't want to do that. That was a win in my book, even though some people might see that as a wasted summer. For me, it was like, okay, cool. I don't want to be Kerry Washington. Let me like pivot.
So in some ways I'm hearing consistency in what you're saying. These are communications related internships, but then they're in very, very different fields. So did you feel like you were still bouncing around at that point?
No, not really. I mean, no, I feel like I was honing in more. Like I never at one point was I like, okay, you're being crazy. It was all like within the major, like media and communications. Like I knew I wanted to land somewhere in there. I really liked psychology. And also at the time, the classes I was taking, like I wrote down some of them just because I really loved, like in your class, mass media, I learned about TV and radio and audiences and how that works. And then in Dr. Lavasser's class, I took like 4 of his classes because I love him. I learned about communications theory and I learned about speech writing. And so they kind of all dovetailed together. Like, okay, maybe I don't want to do politics, but maybe I like speech writing. That's a type of communications. But, also going with that is like French, they have a different way of speaking and they have a different type of culture. And, maybe I kind of want to do film and scripts and things like that, but that also is like a type of communication and relationship. Like they all went together. Like that's what I love about the communications department. They all kind of dovetail together, even though they might not seem to, if that makes sense.
So the skill set transcended the location.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. Now this is all leading down the path toward the very dramatic and exciting New York move. Yes.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, I have notes. Okay, so then I returned to Westchester for my senior year. So what I did is I stayed in France that spring semester of my junior year, and then I stayed in the summer, which also like I ended up staying in Italy for a few months and nannying because my mom was like, don't come back, like just hang out there if you can. So then I went and nannied for this family I hadn't met yet. But it turned out great. Like I love them. I'm still in touch with them. So then I came back to Westchester University that fall, and I became a student director at the student union. I was still part of my groups. Well, not the newspaper because they replaced me while I was gone. But I was a student director, and I was like, okay, now what? Like I just came off my France, Italy adventure, and I was like, I want to do something else. And I was in the student union with our student class president at the time, Rodney Kaplan, because we worked together at the student union. So we're very good friends. And, a lot of not how you get places, but a very valuable thing when you do a lot of experiences and meet a lot of people is connections. And through Rodney's friend, he had a friend who we also worked with, who had a friend who had done the Tonight Show internship. And randomly, when we were sitting up there eating lunch, she was like, you should do the Tonight Show internship. He said it was a lot of fun. You live in New York City. I know you're bored right now. You're like, what's next? And so then he hooked me up with his friend that day, and we talked on the phone for like 2 hours about his experience at the internship, and I applied that evening. And then I found out a week later he also, this is great because then like knowing people is everything. He also gave me the communication information of the contact information of the campus recruiter at NBC, which was invaluable because then I just forwarded her my application materials via email. And so I sent her my application materials. And then the next week I heard back. And I don't think if I hadn't sent her my application materials, I would have heard back from her, or I would have heard back from the internship, because now looking at it from the inside, like there's so many applicants that go into that portal. It's easy to get really lost, especially sometimes when you're not like a huge name school, I think. And so sending it to her, she pulled my stuff out, and then I went into New York City for an interview. And that's a big piece of advice from me too. Like if you have an interview, I could have done it virtually, but it's always great to go in person. Like it's, it's kind of a richer interview. Not saying that over the phone isn't bad and you definitely won't get it. But if I had the choice, I would always go somewhere, and I would always go in for the interview. And one of the girls I ended up interviewing with was from Tennessee, and she flew into New York City from Tennessee. And, these aren't people like from big means. Like she just made the effort to be like, okay, I'm going to put all this money I've saved aside to fly in because this is important to me. And she ended up getting it. But anyway, so then I got the internship, and then it became like a mad dash for, okay, I have to go my last semester of college. I have to get credit for it because I'm not ready to graduate. And oh shoot, sorry.
We'll get you back.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm like not in work, but like sometimes people are calling me, so I'm just like, okay, bye.
Gotcha.
So then I worked with you, Dr. Lorden, to get credit for the Tonight Show internship. And then I decided I only had one class to do online, because doesn't the internship program at WCU, like I think I got 10 credits for it or something like that.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of credits for it.
There was a lot of hours.
Yeah, and yeah, it was essentially like a full-time job. Like I worked Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to like 7 p.m. on some nights, even later. Wow. Like it's, yeah, they expect a lot from you, but I had absolutely thrived there. So let me tell you a little bit about the internship, just so people kind of know. 27 interns from all over the United States, but a lot of them are New York City based. It's paid. It was like a full-time job. There are different departments. There's studio, there's recording, there's a writer's intern, there's a talent intern, there's a music intern, there's a script intern, and then there's floaters. Floaters are like runners. So the thing about this show is the staff can't go out and like pick up these flowers or pick up something for talent member, like, because people have writers. So the interns are kind of that person, like they're the connection to the world. So it was a lot of fun, because as someone who had never lived in New York City, I learned the city fast, because in a split second, it could be like, oh, we need this. Can you run down to Duane Reade, which is a pharmacy? Or can you run down to Brooklyn and pick this up and bring it back? We have a remote shoot. So it was a lot of like on your feet PA type work, like standing in, running scripts, what's it called? Transcribing scripts, locking up, which is like watching doors so that people don't interrupt a remote shoot. And I loved it. And I'm like kind of a workaholic, I find, where I'm just like, I'll stay from 9 to 8 p.m. Like I'll stay all night long and then go home, fall asleep, and wake up and do it again, just because it's exciting. It's, fast paced. And once I was there, I was like, I've never felt this type of connection with work before. And so then I was like, okay, like I really, really want to stay here. And the great thing about it, like I was really sad when I left Westchester University, because I thought I would have more time there and I had all my friends there. But that was another opportunity where it's like, okay, like I have to jump and take this, or, it could pass me by. And like, it's very scary to move to New York and not know anyone and like show up at 30 Rock and, say I'm here for this internship. But again, like I think all the risks I took in the past prepared me for this one risk that I was going to take. And so then the internship was from January to May. So it's a great chunk of time. And I was in Monday through Thursday, Friday, if someone needed coverage, which a lot of people often did. So I was pretty much working 5 days a week. And it's cool that like the coolest thing I think, because I think another Westchester student interned there last semester, Rosemary, I supervised her, or maybe it was the spring semester. And the cool thing about being from PA or Philadelphia is that the Roots, the house band for the Tonight Show, are from there too. So then I ended up helping them a lot with different runs. Like I would help out Questlove and Black Thought with a lot of different things they needed help with. And so when the internship ended, they offered me a job to help them assist them for like 2-3 months in the summer. And I said yes to that. And that I think was a risk too, just because it wasn't enough to pay my rent and it wasn't like a stable thing. It was just kind of like a runner assistant type person for them. But I had loved being at the Tonight Show so much that I was like, okay, like I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back there. And so I did that. And then the internship coordinator role happened to open up like a few months later. And because I was around, like no one had told me about it, but because I was around and in the building, like picking things up for the Roots and helping them out with things, I was like, okay, I happened to walk into reception one day and be like, hey, and then the person who had been my internship coordinator mentioned that she was getting promoted. And I was like, hey, I would, love to be considered for this. So that's also like the things I think I learned from the Tonight Show were, what did I learn? Like, be reliable. People really, in this type of industry and work and media and PAing and communications and late night, like they need people who are reliable, who will show up. And it's like, the job doesn't end after 9 to 5, like things always go further. There might be a delay in production and you have to stay late, be the type of person people want to work with, which is someone who is happy and smiley and easygoing and friendly and, doesn't cop an attitude or complain when things get crappy, because everyone is kind of in that boat together. Like no one really wants to be there past 10 p.m., but sometimes that's just the way it is. And so just having a good disposition. And I think all my opportunities at Westchester University and the jobs I worked, they taught me like that I like to work and I like to be with people. And, I'm a people person and it's a lot of fun. And so I think that really helped me. I'm trying to think what else. Does anyone have questions? I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling.
Well, maybe they'll throw them up on the chat for us, but this sounds like it was not this sounds like you truly could answer it as no 2 days were the same.
No 2 days were the same. It was like similar type things. Like you always have to fulfill a rider for a guest who's coming on. Someone always has to record a backup of the show. There will always be a script to transcribe. You'll always, lock up during a remote shoot. But, it's not like every day you're going to get the same rider fulfillment or every day like the same like last minute type of crisis occurs. Like, and the best part about it is you have such a great support system because there's 27 other interns going through the exact same thing as you. So you really, and 27 interns from all different schools and ages and backgrounds are bound to not get along completely, but it's great preparation for the workplace where you'll be thrown in with people that nothing about, but you're just expected to kind of collaborate and work together with strongly. That internship just prepared me for the workplace so much. I don't think I would have ever been able to start my job at Fallon without having this internship, because it teaches you also like the speed of late night and the speed of New York City, which is like, if something is needed, it's needed 5 minutes ago. So it's like I'm not able to get out of that these days. I'm just like, okay, like it's needed. And people are like, slow down. I'm like, no, this is the way it is.
So I can't, for some people, hanging with the Roots would just be the ultimate driving around with Black Thought and doing different things must have been just, I mean, you're right there at the top of the game.
Right. But professionalism, I think I learned professionalism being a student director at Westchester University, because even though you're like in the student union and you're with your friends and you're kind of hanging out, you always are like, you're actually working at the same time. So it's like, you have to manage being a professional, but also like being who you are and being your own self and being around people you really like or who, you really admire. And that's something that I learned at the Tonight Show also, that like these may be celebrities, but you're there in a professional capacity and, people just want to get, their job done. Like the Roots just want to go in and, do their work and deliver their lines and, play their music. And so it would really take them out of the zone if I was like in their face fangirling. I think I was able to prove like, okay, like no matter what you throw me into, like I'll always be game face on, like ready to work, completely friendly and cordial. And I think that really matters. But also we prep the interns when they come in. We say, hey, this is what's expected of you. Like no one is thrown in their blind, expected to like know these types of rules or know how to like carry yourself in these types of situations. There's a really extensive orientation beforehand where it's like, okay, when you're with, talent, maintain composure. You're a professional here, like keep it together. That's what we expect of the interns. We expect you to be reliable. We expect you to show up. These are all like things I had learned in my classes and then was able to kind of apply to the role.
Now it's dawning on some people who are viewing this. They're saying, wait a minute, this is a decision-making person in the Jimmy Fallon show. Can we get her LinkedIn address? Can you give us your LinkedIn address?
I don't know my address, but it's just Kennedy Jirard.
All right.
Like if you just type in Kennedy Jirard Tonight Show, like it should pop up. And then I always respond. Go ahead.
Is it an email? Is an email okay?
Yeah, sure. You can give them my Gmail, KennedyLJirard@gmail.com. I always respond to Westchester students. So just because I'm like
Kennedy L. Jirard, and it's Girard.
JIR.
Kennedy L. Jirard with a J.
JIRARD. Yeah, I'd love to do informationals. I would have never gotten here if I hadn't known people, or people like if that initial friend hadn't taken the time to talk to me for 2 hours about the internship program and then talk to me about applying and tell me what to expect and how it's going to be. So I'm always one to take the time and talk to young professionals who are interested in doing it, just because I think a lot of us don't if you talk to 10-year-old Kennedy, I would have never fathomed that this was a job and this was a job that would someday be within my grasp and, on my resume. And so it's like, I feel really passionate about helping others get to, these roles, because they do exist and they are looking for people from smaller areas who, have those skills. We don't just want NYC based schools, which is sometimes what we get. We want people from all over who can bring in like a diverse array of personalities and ideas and capabilities and things such as that. Yeah. That's
great. So those of you who are listening, don't take a back seat to anybody. You want to do this. And you're getting a message from Kate Wickersham here saying, Kennedy, your energy is amazing. Thank you for being available to our WCU students. Rams up. #Rams up.
Rams up. Thank you.
Gianna Margarita is saying, how much did you study for your classes each day when you were doing all this stuff? How did you balance it?
When I had only one class and I would do it on the weekend. My weekends were full of schoolwork. And then during the weeks, I just was like kind of at the Tonight Show, hustling, working hard. Yeah, it definitely wasn't great. I had it better than other people there who had full course loads and were working at the Tonight Show, interning at the Tonight Show, maybe from like 10 to 2, then going to class and coming back at 4 or coming back at 7 p.m. for a remote shoot that's going to go till 9:30 p.m. I think I've gotten really good at scheduling my time. Like I was one of those people who everyone was like, time management. And I was like, time management, whatever. Like, what is that? And then as I kind of had a busier schedule and I had more responsibilities and people were wanting me to do things or like needing my attention, that time management really came to fruition. I was like, okay, like I really need to be better with my time. And the thing about the Tonight Show and what it taught me was like, we have a day to put together a show that's topical and timely and
wow.
It's funny and relevant. And so then you really learn like everything is scheduled, like this meeting and repetition, like we're going to have this meeting every day and these things have to be ready at this time and we're going to send these over here. So it just was, so time management has really become something I'm like really into and passionate about. And now I have an Outlook Google Calendar that I follow extensively, and I have to-do lists. To-do lists are really major. Like as an intern, I had a lot of to-do lists, like Post-it notes, and I have a to-do list right now. Let's see if I can show you guys it. Here's my to-do list. Oh, here's my to-do list. And I cross things off. And what does it say?
It's a great feeling to cross things off.
Yeah, I cross things off as I get to them. Like being able to visualize it and just so I don't forget anything, that's really major. And I've always been a huge agenda person. I've always had an agenda. Agendas are just so you can see your schedule. I think there's a lot of value in having your schedule under control.
One of our marketing students, Kathleen Shannon, is asking about moving to New York City. Where do you begin? Where do you find a place? Where do you find, how do you acclimate?
Facebook. Facebook was really helpful just because there's tons and tons of pages where it's like sublets, looking for a roommate. And so I joined at least 50 pages where I was like, NYU students looking, no, seriously, like, and I don't know how I knew this. I think because I did it one time. There's groups for everything on Facebook, and Craigslist. I looked on Craigslist first because I had experience doing that when I lived in Philadelphia and New Orleans. And this was something, I think Craigslist is a little old fashioned. Like it's something that my mom was really into. Like she's like, let's find Craigslist. I'll wash her on Craigslist. But anyway, so I used Craigslist at first, and then I would go on Facebook and just type at the top. You can just type in names of like NYU students looking for a roommate, sublets, and then you just join them and you can go and see them.
Great.
I'm trying to think what else. Yeah. And then how did I acclimate? I had 27 other interns, and some of them were NYC based. Like some of them were from Fordham, some of them were from NYU. And so the great thing about the internship is you really make friends. Like you make like a whole network of people, and you have a group message, and you're really supposed to rely on each other. And that happened tenfold when I ended up working at the Tonight Show, because then it's a staff of like 300. And those are my friends. Like I'm nervous, if I ever don't work at the Tonight Show, because I'm like, what about my friends? Like that's where my friends are. Like I love going to work because it's like, okay, these are my friends. Of course, I've made friends outside of it. Like I've had friends from college move there, but that's where I made my people. And but also,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can join things too. I've joined things also. I'm part of a nanny agency where I've met a lot of people. I reach out to people that I know from school. Friends of friends have connected me. My mom knows people whose kids live there. So it's just like about reaching out and taking chances, the same way I kind of did when I switched from IUP to Westchester. Like it's harder outside of college because those extracurriculars aren't there. So really use college to make friends. Like that's a really great place to, start those connections, because it's not that easy once you get out into the real world. But also you can find little things like that anywhere. You can find groups.
So I am hearing some themes here. I am hearing you say that you're going to these places a lot of times cold, and you're just having the confidence to say, I'm gonna do what's necessary, and also I'm gonna hang with these people here. They're looking for somebody to hang with. I'm looking for somebody to hang with. We have similar interests. It's gonna work out.
Yeah. Taking risks, again, like that's a major theme in my life. I think taking risks and confidence. Like I'll tell you, I don't have low self-esteem, but sometimes I was like, I don't have what it takes to work at the Tonight Show. I don't have what it takes to be successful here. I don't, like, there are all these like super smart people who, went to Harvard or Yale or whatever. And I don't have that. But then you kind of realize that, what did I realize? That you can get these skills that are necessary for jobs like these from, like, I got it from Westchester University. I got it, from the extracurriculars I was going to. I got it from the jobs I did. I got it from the things I did. Like, don't ever feel like you're not enough, because I found that, like, I read this quote where it was like, someone wrote some, that's what the Tonight Show did for me. I think it taught me how to swim. It taught me that, like, I could swim with these people. Like, I could be in the deep water. I had what it takes, had what it takes to be successful here. And even though, people might look down or, make me feel some type of way, even though no one has ever done that. But I think I made myself feel some type of way because I was working with and competing with people who seemed like better than me. Westchester is a great place to be. The extracurriculars are phenomenal. What you learn there isn't anything less than what you learn somewhere else. So, like, I don't know if that made any sense, but like,
that made a lot of sense. And I think that's really important for our students to hear, because they go through self-doubt like everybody else does, but yeah, you kept pushing along the way. We had a speaker at graduation this year who said, if you have one person who believes in you, it's got to be you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I learned. Like, the whole time I had, like, when I first began, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And then as I was like doing it and I was completing these tasks, and the roots were, texting me, asking me if I could help with something else. And I was being asked to stay late, and if I wanted to come on this remote shoot, and I was also making friends, and staff members knew my name, and would reach out to me and help me with things. Like I remember a staff member like submitted my resume for a job that had opened up, and like just those little votes of confidence was like, okay, like I can do this, being reliable, being a great person, someone who shows up for the job, someone who's smart and takes risks and is willing to kind of speak up, but also like know my place and, read a room and see what's going on. Like those were all things I got from my past experiences that I thought were just random and were just happening to me. And, it all just, I don't know. It all just makes so much sense now.
Wonderful.
Which is so weird. Yeah.
It does make sense. That's great. That does make sense. You got to give us some root stories.
They're great. They're fun. A lot of fun. I'm trying to think root stories. They're just great people. Like some of the best people you'll ever meet. My favorite. I really credit, them with kind of launching my career, because they were like, okay, like here's this, girl from Philadelphia, not from Philadelphia, but Westchester University. Like Black Dot, I think he went to Kutztown or one of the schools. He's a state school. He went to a state school for a little bit. And so they are really familiar with the area. They know Philly, they know Exton, they know the area. So then when they asked me where I was from and I was able to be like, oh, Westchester, right outside of Philly, that kind of like cemented it. People, they're from there. So they're like, hey, Philadelphia girl. And then they never forgot. And then they trusted me with tasks, which ultimately ended up allowing me to work for them.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Although if you're in Manhattan, everybody must say Westchester, New York, thinking Westchester County.
Everyone. I'm like, no, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. We've got a lot of questions about networking. We can see your personality comes right through the screen in terms of the fact that you're energetic and you're positive and things like that. But networking, it doesn't just happen. It's something you need to work at, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like keeping in touch with people, getting coffee, picking their brain, show up prepared. Like I can't tell you how many times I've done like meetings or informationals where someone's been like, okay, tell me about your life. Like, then you kind of put the work on me to walk you through it, when these are like your kind of 15-20 minutes with someone from the Tonight Show. And it's like, okay, show up with questions, show up with, what it is about you that makes you kind of, deserving of this opportunity, or makes me like want to take your resume and be like, this is the one, like this person should totally be there. Like, so make sure to do research before. And that's something like when I interviewed for my job at the Tonight Show, I read up on the person who's doing the interview so much, like I was able to quote him back to him.
Great.
And he like noticed and was like, okay, cool.
Great.
Then,
that preparation right before you go for the job interview, that preparation not only gives you that extra edge, but also makes you feel like you have that extra edge. It makes you feel like you're in a better position than somebody who didn't do that.
Exactly. You always be prepared. I remember before the Tonight Show interview, me and my mom sat at that Whole Foods in Exton and ran through questions that could possibly be thrown at me. Like, prepare. Don't show up empty-handed. Like, all on the internet are like, I think you can take your experiences and kind of storyboard them so that you can answer any question with your experience. And so just do that. Run through those questions on Google that like they say, know this for any job interview, and you'll be golden. Like, be able to explain and be authentic, like be a real person, say what interests you, but
Great.
prepare. Preparation is great.
Wonderful. Well, we find lots of students who work really hard and get high GPAs, and then when it's time to go for the job interview, they just sort of walk in, as opposed to saying, how can I get the edge here? What can I learn about these people? What can I learn about this company? And then how can I show that when I get there? Exactly.
Wait, they're asking how to show it? Was that a question?
Well, they're saying sort of like, I guess I'll just go to the event, as opposed to, geez, this is time right beforehand where I can be learning a whole lot about who I'm going to go see and more about the organization, et cetera.
Exactly. If it's important to you, put the work in, like show it's important to you, and that'll come across. And you'll always be nervous, always. Like, I remember my internship coordinator was like, sometimes she's like, I've taken risks and I've put myself out there, and I've been shaking the whole time, but I've forced myself to do it, and it's paid off. Like, it works out for your career. Like, people notice those types of things.
That's great.
Be nice. I think when you make connections, like, it's similar to kind of making friends, or, just talking to people and, being actually interested in them. Yeah. So I know connection seems hard, but it's just like you're making friends. And I think that was something that I also got from Westchester University when I was like, okay, I'm coming in this transfer student. I don't know anyone. Let me let me learn how to, meet people and find them and make friends from people that I'm working with on Sundays. Sometimes you go into jobs and people don't really want to like be friends. And then you kind of have to like pry it out of them. Like, hey, like I'm not just here to do the job. I'm here to like make a connection and be your friend. How's it going? And
Both of those
France.
things. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a message here from Will Claudio, who's an underclassman when you were an upperclassman, who says, "Thank you for inspiring me. I still remember when you helped give me directions at Sykes when I was a lost underclassman." So a whole new crew coming through. And I know Will, and I know he's going to do very well. And I know he's already taken a lot of your advice in terms of taking chances and joining things. And our comm majors tend to be people who do that. They take chances, they do things, they join things, they make risks. They don't always know where they're going to go, but they say, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Exactly. No, I love being in the comm department. I met so many great people. And the cool thing about it is I met so many great people in class. Like I made so many friends, Instagram people that I keep in touch with now, or people that I talk to, or I know what they're doing, just because I think social media is a great way to like kind of follow everyone's career trajectory and keep in touch. And I just, the comm department is some of the nicest, most chatty, talkative, like warm people ever. Like that was a great place to be. Like Westchester really did a lot for me in my career. Like I'll forever be grateful for my time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next for you?
Well, so I just started a new job at the Tonight Show. So I was the internship coordinator for a year from September to this past November. And then I got promoted to the talent assistant. So I've been getting acclimated in the talent department, which has been a lot of fun. So I get to help out with like, not help out, but I get to like assist and keep track of bookings and the talent calendar and, who we have coming in and facilitating when they come into studio and things like that. And so that's been a lot of fun. And I also went through a period of self-doubt where I was like, oh, I can't do this. Like people who have done this job before were pages, which is the NBC year rotational role where you kind of get to really experience NBC. I was like, I wasn't a page. This was my first NBC internship. I, didn't come from an Ivy League, but I found that I've been successful in the role and I really like it. And I think talent coordination is something I really like to do, help people get from point A to point B and make it successful and make sure they get on air and they're comfortable and they have what they need. And, another fun part of it is following every single thing that's coming out, movies, television shows, books, podcasts, and thinking like, who do we want to have on the show? Like who should we work with to have come on and kind of share like their next big thing and what they have coming up. And so I found a real passion for that. And I've just been doing it like 4 months. So I'm not with the internship program, like once you do a year of something, you kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable. Like I know how to do this. I know what to expect. I've gone through a year of it. So I've seen everything at least once. And so just because I'm starting this role, this is something I'm going to focus on and, really dive into and kind of see it. Talent coordination and booking is something in my future and I want to do, but I think I'm in a great place. Everyone is they're really, really nice. People at the Tent Show are really, really great people.
Wonderful. Fallon has a reputation for that too, right? As being just a genuinely nice guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great place. The Roots, everyone, like I don't know how you can work at a place where everyone's just so great. I was like, how does that happen? Like,
That's
but
wonderful.
I think it's because people hire people they want to work with. I think Lauren Michaels one time said, who you hire for production is who you want to see at 2 p.m. and 2 a.m. and like not be like, oh, that guy, or just because that's the nature of the job. Like it's fast paced. You don't like. I went to Texas for a remote show. We did a show in Austin, Texas at the University of Texas. We did it last fall. And so it's like you really live and work with these people. And then we did a Grand Central remote shoot with BTS where we were in Grand Central till 5 a.m. I remember I didn't get home till 7 a.m. and then I slept and went to work the next day, that Monday. And so it's like, who do you want to see at 4 a.m.? So I think that's why everyone's so awesome there.
Wonderful. That makes sense. Anybody you want to name drop as far as people you've met?
Tina Fey last week.
Tina Fey, a Philly girl.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Okay, last word. You want to get there. You're looking right at all these students and they are admiring where you are. Everybody should have the understanding of how to get in touch with you, LinkedIn, and how to get in touch with you with the email address. Give us your final words of wisdom for this group. Oh, we lost the sound.
Sorry, I clicked mute. Okay, what are my final words? Be a genuine good person. Like, just be a good person, like care about others, because that comes through. Like, if you're authentic or not, that really comes through 100%. And be nice to everybody, because you never know where life ends up. And I think when you transition from college or high school to college, like sometimes I think high school can be a little catty and people can be cliquey and mean. Like in the business world, that doesn't fly. Like that's not a thing. So it's just be nice to everyone. Be nice to your peers, because you never know. Like someday they might be giving you what's the word? Like they might be recommending you for things. Like I can't tell you. I've gotten not two friends of mine, but two interns from my class. Like I've helped them get jobs at the Tonight Show, and they could do it all on their own, but I've been like, yeah, they're great, because people will inevitably ask other people who have worked with others, what were they like to work with? So, be nice to your coworkers, be nice to your superiors, be nice to the people you're overseeing, like just be nice to everyone, because this is a very small industry. It all gets around, like all of it. So just be kind. That's a big one, I think. Take risks, it's not that scary. Don't let the pandemic kind of deter the things you want to do. That was a great piece of advice I heard. A student wanted to move to Pittsburgh. And I heard, and he was like, well, should I wait for the pandemic? And it's like, you don't have to put your life on hold. Like you can go to Pittsburgh and social distance, but you could like make moves with your life. Like, don't let this kind of slow you down, but be safe and wear a mask. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think being nice is the biggest one. Be a go-getter, be reliable, go above and beyond.
Those are all great, and we really appreciate your inspiration here. We're very proud of you for everything you've done and that you represent us up there, and you've really opened up a pipeline for us up there that we're very excited about. We've had a number of interns come through. Rosemary always talks about how much she enjoyed it, how great it was for her. So we thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and we hope to see you around the campus sometime.
Thank you. Feel free to reach out. You all have my email, and LinkedIn, Kennedy Jirard. It's very easy to find me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kennedy. Great to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Warden.
All right. Have a good one. Gang. Take care.
What's up?